I know. All right, time for another edition of the Penn State Blitz here on PennLive. Greg Pickle.
Bob.
We got 4 downs to get to. Recruiting is going to be a main theme once again.
Yes.
Just want to remind everyone to check out our YouTube channel, YouTube/AllPennState, for all the Penn State videos. It's great stuff. Greg, let's get to it. Penn State stays hot on the recruiting tail. First down, Hakeem Beamon, defensive lineman from Virginia.
Right.
Virginia is a kind of a key here. 6'4", about 250 pounds. What do you like about him? And are you surprised Penn State was going to get him, or do you think he was going to be one of their guys?
Yeah, you know, Bob, one of the things that stuck out most was the fact that when he was still committed to North Carolina as long ago as January, February, March, and when he finally decommitted, he was still visiting Penn State.
Yeah.
I believe he made it to a game last year as well. So and not that Penn State was the only school that he was visiting, but it doesn't appear that he went anywhere more than Penn State. So they're always trending the right way. He's a guy that could be a defensive end or a defensive tackle. I think you maybe worry a little bit that he gets stuck in that tweener kind of mode, but we've seen with Sean Spencer and Brent Pry, they can take those guys, and even if they aren't exactly big enough to be a surefire tackle, or maybe not as long as maybe they'd like to be a defensive end, they find a way to use them. So really talented kid. I think a 4-star is accurate rating for him, and when you look at where Penn State is at in the defensive line in this class, he's about as good of a start to the class as I think they were going to have. So top-notch get, and then Virginia, you're right. I mean, they keep taking in more and more good players out of there. Ricky Slade, or Devin Ford, rather, in this class as well. You know, Ricky Slade in the class before. So, I mean, it's been Brandon Smith.
Yep.
Yeah, how could you forget him, of course. So it's been about as good of a start in that, you know, in Virginia as Penn State's maybe ever had.
Why do you think they've been able to? I mean, they're destroying the competition.
Right.
I mean, Virginia Tech, Virginia, why have they been able? Who is kind of spearheading all the success in Virginia?
Yeah, I mean, one of the interesting things is that when you look at who's Penn State's sort of main recruiters have been in Virginia, it was Josh Gaddis and Charles Huff a lot of the time, and neither one of those guys are here, and yet Penn State has arguably its best haul of Virginia talent. Of course, you guys still have to sign. There's no reason to think they won't, but I mean, they have as good a talent out of the state as maybe they've ever had, or at least in quantity and certainly quality as well. So I think it was just long-standing relationships. I think that, you know, James Franklin, Brent Pry, and then Ricky Ronnie all obviously have made connections with these kids. It doesn't help, or it doesn't hurt rather, on the Devin Ford front that he had his teammate Nana Asidu already coming to campus. He'll get here with the rest of the freshman class at the end of the month. So I think you put all those things together, combined with it, you know, it's not that Virginia Tech and West Virginia and Virginia and North Carolina have been killing it on the field, so you maybe don't have as many regional foes as you usually do, but for all these guys, they had options all over the country. It wasn't just the Tidewater teams that they had to deal with. So I think they've just really quickly acclimated themselves with these guys, and it's been a good run.
Oh, by the way, we should probably mention that Trace McSorley played football in Virginia.
Never heard of him.
And he's only the Heisman Trophy front runner as we talk about this.
Right.
Second down, James Franklin. Did you feel like he maybe a little pat on the back for himself when he mentioned, I guess, at a recent speaking engagement that, you know, with regard to recruiting, he kind of acknowledged they've been on a hot streak, and it's not just Virginia, but this is something that he's put together over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, I mean, you go back to the blue-white game, and they've really been on a nice little run ever since Caden Wallace committed then. And I think that this was always coming. You know, we spent a couple episodes of the Blitz talking about when the dominoes were going to fall, when were things going to shake out, when was Penn State going to catch up with Ohio State and Alabama and Clemson and all these teams that they're playing with on the field in terms of college football playoff consideration. When were they going to catch up to them as it relates to the recruiting efforts in the class of 2019? And they have now. I mean, I haven't checked recently, but they're in the top 15 at this point in terms of the team rankings. They probably are inching closer to the top 10 with a couple decommitments that have happened around the country. So at the end of the day, Bob, I just think that the run was always going to come, especially in the secondary, because you knew that the dominoes were all going to jump in to make sure they had space. I mean, at some point, you're going to start knocking guys off, and you're going to run out of room. So I think for Penn State, once Brisker committed, that started the tide that Tyler Rudolph, Marquise Wilson, so, and then, you know, you have some other guys that really have, you know, maybe wanted to be a part of this class, but won't be able to. So I think that's sort of really how it all worked out. And then you have, you know, Hakeem Beamon, who just wanted to commit when he was supposed to decide a little bit later, and I just think that he felt it was the right time to wrap things up, and he did. So, yeah, that's how I look at it at this point.
Do you expect the hot streak to continue? Where does it go from here?
Well, the next decision's Thursday, the middle of May, when Cameron Kelly decides that another Virginia guy, 4-star defensive back, and he's one of those guys that, you have to wonder if he's right. The boat is full when it comes to future defensive backs. So I don't know. He went to Clemson over the weekend. It looks like they will probably land him. So will it continue with him? Probably not. Will it continue? It's a fair question. I mean, I think that, the one decision that really looks good for Penn State, it's not till July 23rd when Salim Worley, the guard out of Delaware, decides. Could there be some more added to the calendar before then? Absolutely. But right now, it looks like it'll probably slow down for a little bit. It has to be. It was a hot streak. You can't recruit and get commits like that forever.
Right. Okay, third down, it's time to talk about a player departure.
Right.
Young defensive tackle Corey Bolds, a 4-star from New Jersey. I believe he just completed his redshirt freshman year.
Correct.
He has announced his intent to transfer out of the program. Two things. Did you see it coming, and how big of a loss in your mind is it for Penn State?
Yeah, I mean, it was weird, I thought, in the spring. He wasn't one of the guys mentioned.
Right.
And Penn State needs defensive tackle depth, and it needs really guys that are able to jump into the fold and play right away. And you just didn't hear his name ever really brought up. And I thought that was bizarre because he came in as a pretty highly regarded 4-star recruit out of New Jersey. It looked like him and Fred Hansard were going to be the two guys that really sort of jumped in and made a splash, maybe as true freshmen. That, of course, didn't occur for either one of them. Now Bolds moves on. Someone had to get him down to 85. So, I mean, it was somebody was going to have to leave eventually. Would I have had him in my top 10? I guess you could have maybe seen the writing on the wall. Maybe think, they bring in P.J. Mustipher, Judge Culpepper. I mean, they have some guys coming in here that are very likely to jump over, some veterans that are in the program at this point, let alone a guy that's a redshirt freshman that maybe these guys are better than these true freshmen may be better than where Bolts is at this point. So probably not when you look at it. I mean, I think that, again, Mustipher's a guy that it could very well make a huge splash this year, or if not, at least be a contributor.
Yeah, and I think the winter and the spring are times when players make their move or they fall back.
Right.
And when you heard James Franklin and you heard Sean Spencer, whether it was meeting with us or on videos, their in-house videos, names like Antonio Shelton came up.
Yeah.
Also the Harrisburg High kid, Damian Barber, who's added all that size.
He looks big.
And he did I thought some nice things in the blue-white game. There's always a pecking order when you're a 4-star like Bolds is. You expect you're going to play sooner rather than later. I read it as he kind of saw the writing on the wall and knew that if he wanted to play, it wasn't going to be at Penn State.
Yeah, that's exactly what I saw too. Again, the freshman class coming in is terrific, and then you mentioned the depth that they have as well.
Okay, fourth down here on the Penn State Blitz, and then hopefully we'll get to some questions and comments. Yes. Fourth down kind of surprised me. Penn State and Ohio State, as you know, are going to play at Beaver Stadium in late September.
Right.
A lot at stake in the Big Ten East with that outcome 2 years ago. Penn State won a tremendous game at Beaver Stadium. Ohio State kind of got them back last year at the Horseshoe 39-38. We've been talking about who's going to be favored, where the line's going to be end up.
Right.
And wouldn't you know, Danny Sheridan, who's kind of a well-known handicapper, sports betting guy, had some interesting things to say about the game. He said he expects Penn State to win that game by double digits.
Yeah, when we were talking about getting ready for the show, I had somehow missed that. So I went back and read and listened to his comments, and man, that was bullish. I mean, he wasn't holding back, and he wasn't. It wasn't like he just, decided to throw that one out there for the heck of it. I mean, he had some conviction that he really thinks that Penn State is going to handle Ohio State. And quite honestly, I would not have seen that coming at all. I mean, we talked about it. Is Penn State maybe a little bit better than the 3.5 points that they're getting? Yeah, probably for a home whiteout game. But I mean, beyond that, there's a lot of unknowns. Ohio State has a lot of unknowns too, no doubt about it. But to be that bold at this point, I was surprised.
Yeah, Penn State's losing 8 defensive starters. I know they like their depth. They have some issues, I think, at linebacker they have to sort out. They lose Saquon Barkley, they lose Jasicki, they lose Hamilton.
Right.
Double digits to me, that's surprising. I'm not saying it won't happen, but, just so people know. So if he sets a line, he's not going to set. So in other words, he's not going to say Penn State's a 9-point favorite.
Right.
He's going to set a line to get action on both sides.
Right.
But I think we know that Saturday where Danny Sheridan's money is going to be.
Right, yeah.
If the line's 2 or 3 points, he likes him to win by double digits. He might be right. I think that Urban Meyer has his guys ready to play in big game environments. I'd be very surprised if it's that kind of game. But maybe Danny Sheridan knows something that we don't. I think I do like the fact that he didn't toe dip on this one.
No,
he jumped right into the
Yep.
deep water, and those comments will probably be examined over and over between now and the time those two teams meet. That's it for the 4 downs here on the Penn State Blitz. The only thing left to decide is, does anyone have any questions or comments, Greg Pickle, for you or I?
Yeah, so David checks in, as fate would have it, about David's story. David Jones, our colleague here at PennLive, wrote about Brian Bresci this morning, the 5-star recruit, defensive lineman, and a superstar, really, out of the Maryland area, 2020 kid. And he's curious about Bresci and then Julian Fleming, the 5-star wide receiver from Pennsylvania, and where Penn State stands with both. I think it's a short and sweet answer, quite honestly, that Penn State sits in fine shape for both of them. But when you're talking about national level recruits that can legitimately go wherever they want today, I mean, today, tomorrow, 2 weeks from now, 2 months from now, 2 years when they were actually signed from now, you're never going to feel great until they actually commit to you. But I think Penn State at this early juncture sits in about as good of a spot as they can. Yeah,
and Brian Bresci as a defensive line recruit, when you see a 5-star defensive line recruit, they're kind of rare.
Yeah.
They're really rare. So everyone is going to be after, everyone all over the country is going to be after that guy. I think that might be the tougher kid to land. Wideouts, there's 4 and 5-star wideouts, and they're a little bit easier to kind of find. I don't know. Bresci seems like he's going to be maybe one of the top 5 players in that class.
Right, no question. The next question is again about recruiting, which has sort of been a theme here. So, Penn State has 1 5-star, Brandon Smith. The question is, will they get another one? Possibly. I mean, to me, I think it probably depends if Devin Ford gets elevated to a 5-star or not, and that wouldn't be necessarily getting another one, but you have 2. That's my guess.
Yeah. So didn't you mention that? I think earlier this week, was there a defensive lineman like the defensive
Zach Harrison?
Zach Harrison. Excuse me. Do they have any kind of shot at that kid? He's a 5-star.
More than they should for a kid in Ohio State's backyard as a 5-star defensive lineman. He's been to campus a few times now. Again, they have more of a foot in the door than, again, they probably should for a kid that's close to Ohio State. I mean, 9 times out of 10, that kid's already committed to Ohio State by now. So, do they have a shot? Yeah. Is it a really, really difficult pool? No question about it. So, we'll see. I would say if they're going to get another 5-star, it'd probably be if Ford gets moved up. I just don't know if I see a top target out there that's currently a 5-star that will pick Penn State. And similarly, I don't know if I see a 4-star target out there or a guy that's committed that could get moved up to a 5-star status.
All right, are we done with the questions and comments? Is this a wrap, or we're going to go to one more?
If we don't have one more, I have one for you, Bob Flounders. What are you doing in the Belmont this weekend? Are you sticking with Justify or what?
I don't know. These are the questions Penn State fans really want to know. I'll keep it short and sweet. I'm going to play 2 horses together. It's Justify and Hofburg.
Okay.
It's going to be an exacta box. I don't like anyone else. I just hope it doesn't rain again. That poor horse has had to run through some difficult conditions, and should be an interesting afternoon. But those are my 2 horses. It's an exacta box. Probably with a little bit of money on that one. How about you?
Okay, I'm going to probably go with Justify because I've went against him the first 2 races, which means he is going to lose. So we'll see. I don't know. But if I like him, you should use somebody else. One more. Trent Dilfer apparently said recently, according to David, I didn't see this, but that he was better than Mayfield and that he should be in the Heisman front runner. So your thoughts on that, I guess. Dilfer obviously has been wrong about one Penn State quarterback before. That was Christian Hackenberg. This is probably a little bit of a easier evaluation to make, considering what we know about Trace and everything he's done so far. But it's high praise for sure.
Yeah, I look at it too. I think there's 2 different things at work here. I do think that Trace McSorley should be on a very short list of Heisman Trophy contenders to start the season. I do think he has a little bit of a step forward to take, I think, to get to Baker Mayfield's level. I think he needs to raise maybe his completion percentage just a little bit more. Although, to be fair to Trace, I think when you look at the schedule Penn State plays, especially the schedule Penn State's going to play this year, they play a tougher schedule than Oklahoma does. Oklahoma only played maybe 1 or 2, I thought, decent defenses last year. Baker Mayfield had a great game in Columbus against Ohio State before they really had their act together. And he had a good first half against a good Georgia defense, but they kind of figured him out in the second half. Right. I mean, I think that Trace can get a little bit better. He's going to need to probably take the next step where I would say he's better than Baker Mayfield, who did win the Heisman.
Yep.
But it's going to be fascinating to watch. And yes, Trent Dilfer is not shy about making bold
No,
statements.
he is not.
When I think about Trent Dilfer and Penn State quarterbacks' bold statements, right now he's 0 for 1.
Yes.
Let's see if he can get to 500.
All right. Well, David likes your exacta box as well, and I guess that'll do it for this edition of the Blitz, Bob.
All right. Who knows? By the time we get back next week,
Maybe we won't be
we
back.
could be talking about Penn State getting yet another blue chip out of Virginia because that
Right.
seems to be the way it's been going.
Yeah.